Good morning, children. Here we have to start the main syllabus, the main book of our English language, and this book is Flamingo. In the previous lecture, we had seen one chapter from our another book called Vista. But here we are starting the first chapter of Flamingo, and the name of the chapter is The Last Lesson, written by Alphonse Daudet. Before we start the chapter, let me introduce the writer. Alphonse Daudet, he was a French novelist and short story writer. Now this chapter is all about France only. We all know that France is an European country. It's a very famous for Eiffel Tower and all. That is different thing. In this chapter, the writer has described the story of a teacher and a student. The name of the teacher is Mr. M. Hamel, and the student is Franz. The relationship of a teacher and a student is unique only. It cannot be described through the words. Here, emotional touch is given by the writer to this story. But before we start a story, let me ask you one question. We all know that India was slave to British people, and the British ruled over the nation for more than 200 years. In those days, even when we were slaves, we didn't give up our mother tongue Hindi. And because of that, what happened? The spirit to get freedom was there in our blood. Suppose we all had accepted English language. In that case, we would have been happy as a slave to British people. But we fought against them, we gave many sacrifices just because we didn't give up our language, Hindi. So every mother tongue has got values, culture in it. And we should never give up our mother tongue. And this is the message of this lesson even. Let me give you the background of this lesson. In 1870 to 1871, Prussia actually, this country does not exist today, but Prussia in those days, well, Germany and some part of the European countries were included in Prussia. Prussia attacked on France. And there was a great battle between Prussia and France, and in that battle, Prussia defeated France. And because of that victory, France had to give up two districts, Alsace and Lorraine. The Prussians occupied these two districts, and that brought many changes in these two districts. The present chapter, the last lesson, it takes place in the Alsace district of France. In that district, many changes came in the lives of the people, many changes came in geographical area even, but the writer's focus is there on what changes came in the behavior, attitude of the people of Alsace district. The capital of Prussia was there in Berlin. Today Berlin is the capital of Germany. In those days it used to be the capital of Prussia. So this is just the background of this last lesson. Well, when the Prussians decided to occupy Alsace and Lorraine, they gave order, they sent one order from Berlin to the people of Alsace that in the schools of Alsace, the education of French language will be stopped and they will start another language, German. They will start the education of German language in all schools of Alsace. So this is the background of this chapter, and now the explanation of the main chapter begins. Friends, the student. One day, Franz was going to the school. On that day, he was scared to go there. He didn't want to go to the school. The reason was there. Just one day ago, Mr. Hamel taught the students about the participles. Participles in French language. He taught about the participles and he told all the students that tomorrow I will ask the question on the participles, and our student, well, even in the running period, he didn't pay attention to the teacher, he didn't learn the homework, and as a result, he was scared, he was frightened that if I will go to attend the class of Mr. Hamel, in that case, when I will not answer, the teacher will be angry and perhaps he will use the iron ruler, or he may give some different punishment to him. So he was just outside only, he was already late to school. He started watching the surroundings nearby the school. The day was very bright, very warm. Okay, the birds were chirping and the Prussian soldiers were performing drill in open ground. So first he thought that I should not go to school, and in fact I should bunk the school and will spend the entire day in that beautiful surrounding only. But very soon he controlled his emotion and decided that whatever will happen, let it happen, but I have to go to attend the class of Mr. Hamel. So finally, Franz starts walking very fastly to reach the school. He was already late. While he was very close to school, he saw the people gathered around the bulletin board. Just in front of the school, there was a notice board, there was a bulletin board, and people had gathered over there. Franz was familiar with this bulletin board. He was knowing that since last 2 years, when the war between the Prussia and France began, all bad news came from this bulletin board only, like losing the war and Prussians occupying Alsace and Lorraine. So while he was passing from bulletin board, there was a man called blacksmith. Actually, name, it is not a name, it is just a profession. Blacksmith means the person who makes things of iron. the blacksmith was reading the bulletin board, and when he saw this boy French passing very quickly, blacksmith stopped him and told him, "Hey man, why you are moving fastly? You have got enough time to reach the school." French thought that perhaps blacksmith is making fun of him because he was already late to school. So he didn't answer anything to our blacksmith, and yes, he starts moving close to the school. Now he was there just in front of the school, and there was a beautiful garden. But French was surprised there. Generally what happens, whenever we go close to school, we hear a huge sound. The sound of students reciting the chapter, the sound of moving the desk and the benches. So a lot of noise could be seen there near the school. But on that day, there was no sound coming from the classes. Absolute peace, absolute silence was there. French was surprised that today's silence, it seems as if today is Sunday morning, not Monday morning. Well, every day what happened? Whenever he was late, there used to be huge sound, and while there was hustle and bustle, meanwhile, without getting noticed, he used to enter into the class. But on that day, he realizes as there is complete silence, so definitely he could not enter easily into the classroom. Well, he started looking into the class from the window, and he was surprised there. No child was talking. Even the teacher with a ruler in his hand was moving here and there in the classroom. So again the new fear entered in him. He was very sure that when he will ask permission of the teacher to get entered, well, definitely the teacher is going to punish him. But he has got no other option. So he took the permission of the teacher with a fear, and he was expecting the anger of the teacher. But on that day, he was surprised. The teacher welcomed him in very polite tone of voice, and he requested him to enter the class and to occupy his seat. French was very surprised with this humble welcome by the teacher, Mr. Hamel. Because for French, Mr. Hamel was a very strict teacher. That was the image of Mr. Hamel present in him. But he saw a different attitude of the teacher. Mr. Hamel told him that, "Man, sit fastly. We were about to start the last lesson today without him." Mr. Hamel was looking very disappointed. He was looking very sad. He was not talking too much. Yes, ruler was there. Iron ruler scale was there in his hand. But he was very sad in place of getting angry with him. When French entered into the class, he saw something new. Well, the students were there, but on the last benches, the senior citizens of his Alsace district, well, they were present and they were seated. Like retired mayor was there, retired postmaster was there, and Hosser was also there. He was shocked that why the senior citizens are present in the classroom along with the children. And yes, he noticed one more thing. He saw Mr. Hamill has put on his best dress. He had put on a beautiful shirt, then after there was a green coat. Green coat was there, and he had put on black silky cap, which has got some embroidery work even. That was the best dress of the teacher, Mr. Hamill. And he used to put on that beautiful dress, that special dress, on the occasion of inspection or on the occasion of prize distribution. He was shocked why this man has put on his best dress today. While he was thinking so many things in his mind, Mr. Hamill started speaking, and he told that, "Dear children, today's lesson is going to be the last lesson. You may be knowing that Prussians have defeated the French in the war, and they have occupied Alsace and Lorraine, and new order has come from Berlin. As per the order, in all schools of Alsace and Lorraine, the education of French language will be stopped. All the teachers teaching French language, they have to leave the schools, and new teacher will come from Berlin, and that teacher will teach German language." So today there is a last lesson of French language. Listening to this, French was disappointed. Suddenly he developed a lot of respect for the teacher. Mr. Hamill was teaching in that school for last 40 years. He was teaching for last 40 years, and he was very sincere. But French realizes that in almost every past period, he never paid a serious attention to Mr. Hamill. He never tried to learn French language, and he was shocked that today there is a last lesson. What will happen? He has not learned the language. He doesn't know anything about the French language. And in a very sad and polite tone of voice, Mr. Hamill started teaching about participles. That was grammar period, you can say. He started explaining participles on the blackboard, and on that day, French, he notices that whatever is explained by my teacher, well, he can understand every word, every topic. French was surprised with this because in past he never paid any attention, he never understood anything taught by Hamill, but on that day he thought that everything spoken by the teacher directly entering into his mind. After that, Mr. Hamill started asking questions to the students about participle. Every boy, one after another, started answering to the teacher. And finally came the turn of French. French stood up. The teacher asked him the question of participle. He was knowing the answer, but he got confused. He was thinking only about the last lesson only. he stood up silently there and did not speak even a single word. He thought that my teacher will be angry with me. But on the contrary, Mr. Hamel again in a very polite tone of voice said, "French, I will not scold anything. I will not say anything to you. Because I know that you never tried to learn French language and you don't know anything. But it is not your fault. It is the fault of everyone. It is the fault of the students, it is the fault of the parents, and it is the fault of even the teacher. French, your parents wanted you not to get educated. Your parents wanted you to work in the farm and to earn money. And myself even, sometime I asked you to pour water to the plants. When I had to go out for fishing, I gave you leave. There was no sincerity found in you and me. And because of that only, well, today, none of the child who is present here knows the French language. The teacher was disappointed. And he said that when tomorrow the new teacher will come, new German teacher will come from Berlin, and when he will come to know that the students do not know French language, how to read, how to write, he will make fun of you that which type of French people you are, that you don't know your own language. It's a matter of shame. But he continued. Then after, he started asking the students to write the lesson into their notebooks. And all students, silently, they all started writing. There was absolutely peace. Pin drop silence was there in the classroom. And only the sound that came, it was the sound of pen and paper. Nothing more than that. When the small insect started flying, little noise was created by them like beetles, But children took no notice of beetles and they continued writing. And the senior citizens, they were also doing the same. Well, on that day, French realized that why the senior citizen people were present in the classroom, because it was the last lesson of whom? Mr. Hamel. It was the last lesson. So they were present to show their respect for the teacher, for his services of 40 years to the school. And yes, obviously, all senior citizens were present to give respect to their mother tongue, French language. After writing, there was a period of history, and little was taught by the teacher. While he was giving the lecture on history, at that time only, the church clock, it struck 12. But before that, let me tell you one more thing. On the first floor, one sister was packing the luggage of Mr. Hamel. The sound of pulling the trunk was clearly audible. But Mr. Hamel was not thinking about his own luggage. Okay? He had to leave the school on the same day. But he got control of his emotions and continued teaching. Then after, the church clock, it struck 12. The prayer began the Prussian soldiers' trumpet sound was clearly audible there, and that was the indication that the period is over and the children have to leave the school. At that time, Mr. Hamill, he took one piece of chalk. He wanted to say so much, but because of lot of emotions going in him, he was about to cry. Eyes were filled up with tears. He could not say anything, and just he took a piece of chalk and wrote one word. On the blackboard, Vive la France, and it means long live France. Mr. Hamill gave this message to all the students and the people, those who were present, that French language is perhaps one of the best language of the world, and everybody of France should learn to read and write the French language. Well, our language is the key to break the lock of the slavery. He wanted all the students to learn the language French, but unfortunately, even after his last lesson, at least French was unable to read and write French language. And with this, the chapter is ended by Alphonse Daudet. Thank you very much for paying attention, and the rest of the things will be discussed in upcoming lecture. Thank you.